And so we had to make our way. And I know that most of the women that have made their way in Nollywood or in the entertainment industry in Nigeria have had to work for it. Nothing was handed to us. No one said, oh, because you're female or because you can do this or you can do that, have this. We've had to fight, work. Like she said, you don't have to work twice as hard or more than men, but you need to know at what point in your life what needs to be done. And so like she said, women need to know seasons of their lives, at this stage, sincerely and realistically, what can I achieve? At this stage, what can I achieve? It's called your scale of preference. We all did that in school. So be realistic and plan. A lot of men plan. I'm not saying women don't plan, but I have come to see that a lot of women don't plan as much.
Yeah.
Because we're multitaskers. We can do everything. And then so sometimes we get overwhelmed and want to do everything at once, but you don't have to do it at once. Plan. And then I think everything is possible.
Well, thank you so much for that. Let's take some questions now from the audience, beginning with Mr. Dari Dairo, the PRO, Joint Association of Persons with Disabilities. You have a question for our panelists.
Thank you very much. My question is for you, madam, and probably the woman leader in Abuja, if there is time enough.
You need to signify which madam, because we have 3 of them here.
The APC woman
okay,
leader.
It's okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, is it so much about the number or the quality of representation? Now, because I would like to refer to this particular incident that's making rounds in the media right now, having to do with the travel advisory, issued by Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa. Yes. Now, you see, because I'm bringing this up not because of the gender issue, but essentially because of the theme, be bold for change. Because we can't go on and pretend like, US is not, the US beginning to review their immigration laws. We can't go on and pretend that the new sheriff in town ain't smiling to immigrants, And beside that, it's in the news, the xenophobia issue in South Africa, Nigerians being deported from like almost all over the world. And we are not hearing anything concrete from government. And for me, it's about making your voice. The lesson for women is let your voice be heard on the critical issues that affects you. And she stepped up and she made.
I think I know where he's going.
Now, where do we draw the line between number and quality? Because now, like, everybody is like at her neck. But for me, I think I'm with her all the way.
I'm going to make a clarification here, and I'm sure you know best on this issue. It's an issue of diplomacy. The senior special assistant to the president does not give travel advisory, right? It's in the purview of the Foreign Affairs Minister. It's a policy directive of government. And if I sit in my living room and issue a travel advisory for Nigeria, say to Morocco, I'm straining relationships. So the senior special assistant to the president, Honorable Abike Dabiri, made such pronouncements, probably not thinking deeply. And I'm sure Honorable Nena in Abuja can also educate you better on this issue. She's bold. She's where a woman should be. But there are some things that are beyond your remit. So what she's actually scratched on the surface is something that is within the purview of the Foreign Affairs Ministry, in the purview of the Foreign Affairs Minister. The senior special assistant does not make or give travel advisory to the government or on behalf of the government. So bold she is, fine, we accept her, we are proud to have her from here, but isn't that beyond her remit? That's what it is. It has nothing to do with the gender issue.
But do you think that was done on purpose? You think she crossed the line on purpose?
She probably didn't do it on purpose, but in foreign affairs, you don't just make such pronouncements and not think of the backlash.
Okay, so let's move on to the next question from Ejiro Okotie, a female visually impaired and member, Nigerian Association of the Blind. She's in the audience if she'd like to ask a question.
Thank you very much, Amara. While you were speaking, I must say very insightful discussion so far. But there's a question that you asked the panelists while you were discussing, that are women the enemies of themselves? And, you know, I've been thinking about that question, and it brings me to the family front, you know. How do we raise our children from childhood? You make the females believe, okay, your role, you should take care of the kitchen, learn how to do domestic chores and be a good woman when you grow up to get married and all of that. And the guy goes out there and plays football and watch and just do other things around the house. But if we, from childhood, begin to educate our children, our female children, to understand that you can just be whatever it is you want to be, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve, the courage that Mrs. Udo was talking about is something that they will begin to imbibe from childhood. So they're able to go out there and grab it, like we said, and not sit at the back seat and wait to be handed over those opportunities and all of that we're talking about. So for me, in changing the narrative and ensuring that we move on and get the change that we're clamoring for, we may begin to think of this suggestion that I just gave, whereby we begin to raise our children, female children, from childhood, making them understand that they are just as equal and they have equal opportunities and they can just be whatever they want to be. Now, to my question, from the angle of a woman with a disability, and like my colleague in Abuja rightly said, Lois, we understand that we're doubly marginalized and a lot of times vulnerable. But if we're talking about, she talked about access, but I also want to talk about leadership, because the theme today is women in leadership. How do we encourage women with disabilities to, you know, play a more active role in leadership? Now they have economic issues that they have to, you know, struggle with, which is twice as harder for them. You know, I was at a conference in the UK, and the representative on disability that attended talked about how the government had a special fund to encourage persons with disabilities that wanted to go into politics. That's the strategy that they have adopted.
Okay.
But for us in Nigeria, how do we, or as women, how do we create that support, or how do we help that?
Thank you so much, first of all, for the narrative, and then the question. Can we quickly answer that? We just have a small window before the break time. Which one of you wants to take the question? I believe it's directed at you.
I'm going to take the question on disability. Lagos State is making a very conscious effort for persons living with disabilities. I was just talking to Udo a while ago. The governor is putting he has actually put special processes down for public buildings, have disability access. We were once at a town hall meeting where he also mentioned, where it was also discussed, and he mentioned that there was going to be like a percentage of this going to persons with disability, that with persons with disability. He celebrated one of the landmark dates only with persons with disability, where he had a huge party, and he's making his very special and conscious effort to make it all inclusive. So I think Lagos State is probably the pace setter on this issue.
Well, I'm glad the way the conversation has gone. We have one more question, but we'll take that, I guess, when we come back after the break. We're going to Abuja after the break, and then we'll be back here in the studio in Lagos. We'll be hearing more from Omotola Ekende-Jolade, who is a famous actress and who will be talking about the One campaign. We would love to hear what she has to say.